Welcome to Big Bend National Park. I am coming at you from the South Rim Trail, and it's awesome. It is super awesome. Down there, yeah, way down there, where it's flat, there's no more mountains, it is 20 degrees hotter than what it is up here. And well, it's not very hot up here, but I know it's hot down there. The high down there is like 97 degrees. It's worth being up here. The drive to get here is just a whole lot of nothing. We passed through Marfa, where we had some of the best burritos ever. And then Alpine, where there's a small university, and then bam, no cell phone signal, nothing but rolling hills and a couple of cows. It's neat because as you're driving through that area, it's miserably hot. And then you're driving through that unforgiving desert, and then all of a sudden you see these jagged mountains just jetting up. And that's what I'm standing on now, the Chisos Mountains. This park is incredible. You can stay in the Chihuahuan Desert and explore down there by horseback, canoe, and there's a bunch of off-roading trails and backcountry camping spots. Or you can come up here where it is 20 degrees cooler. I like the cooler weather. Call me crazy, but I do. Today I am doing a 12-mile hike. Started on the Laguna Trail from the visitor center. It's going to loop through some of the ridges and then end up right back there at the visitor center. Mile 5.67. Woohoo! And let me tell you, it doesn't disappoint. I've walked through forested areas and then wide open areas like this. And you can see what made it appealing to so many people for so many years. This area is just rich in resources. You have the yucca plant, which is good for weaving sandals. The root's good for making soap. It's an anti-inflammatory. There is the cactus with the prickly pears. And there's also agave. Well, at least it's what I think agave is. We could take it, ferment it, and see if we can turn it into tequila. That would be a good way of telling if it's agave. 6.3 miles to get to this point. Worth it. Just look at those lichens. Aren't they beautiful? So green. So very green. This whole area up here has gone through a lot of change and has seen a lot of history. 60 million years ago, this was a volcanic field. 10,000 BC is when you first start seeing evidence of the early nomadic tribes coming through the area. They hunted things such as bison, large game animals. However, in about 9,000 BC, the climate started changing. It started getting warmer, drier, until it became what it is today, this miserably hot desert. So you see in about 9,000 BC, the bison start leaving the area. The nomadic people here start becoming more reliant on plants. They developed tools to hunt smaller game such as deer and javelinas. They used those tools for thousands of years. Let's move into about 1500 AD. The Spaniards start coming up this way in from Mexico, and they are sending priests to civilize the natives that are out here. Fast forward a little bit, the Chisos people were chased out by the Mescalero Apache. They were chased out and also adapted into the culture, so then you had that tribe here. That's fast forward a little bit more, and then you have the Comanche come through. The Comanche chase everybody out. They don't actually dwell here themselves, but they maintain a dominant presence over the region for 100 years. They have what's called the Comanche Trail, where the Comanches would come to Mexico, attack the Mexican settlements, and then leave. Mexico responded with these presidios, or forts, all along the region, which were completely useless as a defense against the Comanche. Now, cue the Mexican-American War. U.S. goes to war against Mexico for these weird pretenses. Look it up. I don't remember all of it. And then the U.S. ends up annexing all of the territory from the Rio Grande up. That's how we got all this land. Utah, New Mexico, Texas. The U.S. now needs people to come here and settle the area to keep the Mexicans from coming back in. So they develop the homesteads. People flock to this area because it's great for ranching. They start setting up cattle and sheep, and before you know it, they've completely overgrazed the area. That's okay though, because they would soon discover that this area is rich in quicksilver, or what we know as mercury. And then mining operations open up all over the region. And all these towns that we have, Marathon, Alpine, they're here to support those mining operations. Then in about 1944, during World War II, Texas is saving this area as state property to develop a state park. And they end up donating all this land to the federal government, Texas's gift to the nation, to develop a national park. So in 1944, they deemed this the Big Bend National Park. And that's what it is today. a national park for you to come and enjoy. But at the time, not all of the ranchers and the people in the region were happy about that. A lot of the ranchers grew their herds and overgrazed the lands because they were forced to sell the land to the federal government for the national park. They were no longer able to have their ranches on it. I have started my descent back to camp. I'm still 5 miles away. Some hikers just told me about some bears that they saw. They said the bear was just there eating some prickly pears. They didn't know what to do, so they just stood there being cautious. And bear ate some more prickly pears, looked at them, and I was like, I had enough of this buffet, and walked off. I haven't seen bears. I'm probably being too noisy for it. I'm okay with that. I'm solo hiking. I did see 2 bucks and they got uncomfortably close. I made a noise and kept yelling at them to go away because being impaled by one of those things just doesn't sound like a great way to start a hike. I'm getting a lot of Mexican jays, which are like a blue jay, but I guess more Mexican. I did get some cactus wren when I first got to the park, and that was a cool bird to watch. It just jumps right up on the cactus, spines and all. It's like, I don't care. You can't do anything to me, cactus. Please. Pee in the woods and not in the composting toilet. Thank you. There are so many great views around every turn here. We are at mile 9, 9.25, and as we go up these stairs, I'll go around this little bend, get the amazing view of these cliffs and the valley and the desert below. Well, that's it for the loop hike. 13.5 miles. 2,000 calories, and an ice cream cone. Getting a little tired of staying in hotels and sleeping out of the back of my car, setting up my cot, taking it down, setting up my cot, taking it down. So I thought I'd do things a little differently. So I brought the hotel and the chef with me this time.
There you go.
We have got the worst camp neighbors I've ever experienced. It is a group of maybe 4 or 5 people, but it sounds like 100, and they will not stop talking, and they are talking loud, and I guess it's the grandfather of the group. He keeps stating all these random facts that are just completely wrong, and it's just so annoying. Then earlier, they decided they were gonna have story time. The dad takes out a headset with a microphone on it and connects it to an amplifier and starts telling stories that way. You can hear it all over the camp. I finally at that point went over there and was like, no, you're not doing that. Last night they're telling these Bible stories, but today it's F this and F that. Don't be those camp neighbors. Just, it's the wilderness. Be quiet. Be respectful of other people. This is the Window Trail, one of the more famous hikes here. It's a 2.5 mile hike just to get over there. It is a river basin that flows into a waterfall in between a V in the Chisos Mountains. And worth the hike. Got to see some cool things along the way too. We found a little walking stick bug on a cactus.
Welcome to the window.
All around the park, they have these cactus with the prickly pear on them. You've seen them, I've talked about them. Bears love them, foxes love them. Deer will eat them when they're really hungry. And what's pretty cool is as you're hiking, you'll see these as feces on top of rocks, while the fox eat these, and the foxes usually poop at the highest point that they can on the trail. Park ranger told us that, thought it was great. So anyway, we're going to get some of these. They are called nopales. You can get the ear there, clean it up, slice it. They're slimy, and you can eat those. They taste good on corn tortillas, kind of like a taco. I'm not a big fan of them, but they're good. You can also pick off the prickly pears. Use tongs. They've got little pricklies on them. See those little white spots? Those are thorns. Don't touch them. You can burn them off or you can cut them. There are ants and wasps and bees all over them. They're really sweet. Dad's gonna help us prepare them because apparently he used to eat these as kids all the time. But I'll let him tell you all about that.
Back when we were poor, all we had to eat was cactus and cactus plants. It was those days, you know, when you had to share your shoes with your brothers when you went to school in the snow. It's kind of those kind of times. Anyway, these prickly pears, they come in red and green, and they're really good to eat, especially when they're cold. But you have to be careful because, of course, they're called prickly pears for a reason. Because there's a bunch of little pricks, but if you handle these carefully, you should be able to cut these. This is a real popular fruit in Mexico. As a kid, I used to eat these all the time. So, this is somewhat ripe. So I'm going to try and do this. And that one's ready to be eaten.
See all the little seeds that the foxes poop out on the rocks.
Yeah, that's what you'll be pooping tomorrow morning.
Oh, it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
The consistency reminds me of a watermelon. Are they usually sweeter?
Mm-hmm. No, these are good.
Another way to explore Big Bend Park is by horseback. You can see a little green right there. That is the Rio Grande, and then anything behind that is Mexico. When your legs are too tired for hiking and your butt too tired from riding a horse, you go kayaking. You go kayaking down the Rio Grande. That is Mexico. That is the US. Tacos, hamburgers, Mexico, US. To wrap it all up, we're at the Starlight Cafe getting a... Ooh, can't even get it. That's a 1 pound hamburger right there. Well, that is it for our trip to Big Bend National Park and Big Bend State Park. Thanks for joining us. It was a pleasure having you here.